Every year, the African Union's Peace and Security Council and the African members of the United Nations Security Council convene a high-level seminar on peace and security in Africa. One of the main objectives of this seminar, which has been mostly taking place in Oran, Algeria, is to discuss peace and security matters on the continent. It is meant to assist incoming African members of the United Nations Security Council, known as the A3, in preparing to address peace and security issues on the continent. This is done to ensure that Africa speaks with one voice on continental and global issues of peace and security.
The good thing about this seminar is that he has, first of all, been able to provide the A3 with the requisite capacity, information exchange, and the lessons learned reveal that the A3 has become a formidable force in international peace and security architecture. That is a fact. Secondly, it is necessary to also look at the Oran process as providing the leeway for the specific resolution on silencing the guns.
This process has started as a very simple and small idea. Make the 3 African members of the Security Council talk to each other, reflect on regional and international issues being dealt with by the Security Council and try to have common thinking.
The first meeting was just to make sure that they orient the African members in the UN Security Council to have an idea of what is happening in Africa. Because once you're in New York, you listen to New Yorkers, you listen to UN Security Council, not necessarily to really understand the issues in Africa. So the idea is to make sure that once in a year, we brief them what is happening, and then they get to know what are the position of Africa to be reflected in the UN Security Council. Now in New York, when they negotiate issues or resolutions, there's no way they can negotiate without the African bloc.
The national flag of Sierra Leone.
A3 members are elected as non-permanent members and serve a 2-year term at the UN Security Council. The Council's primary mandate is to maintain international peace and security. The 2011 political crisis in Libya was one of the issues that greatly influenced the creation of the A3.
A resolution was taken and implemented. The African Union at that time, through its Peace and Security Council and through the chairperson of the Commission, spearheaded an African initiative aimed at facilitating a dialogue among the parties in Libya and a peaceful transition to democracy. And indeed, in so doing, we were all cognizant of the aspiration of the Libyan people to democracy, to human rights, and greater transparency in the management of their state. But there was a feeling that this objective could be achieved through dialogue as a way of ensuring that those aspirations are translated into reality, but also as a way of avoiding greater destabilization in the entire region. And it was clear that the African approach did not prevail. And later, Africa, and in particular the Sahel region, came to suffer from the evolution of the situation in Libya. And there was a feeling that if Africa had a unified voice in the Council and spoke more strongly, maybe the African view would have prevailed. And I think the idea of the A3 arose from that.
We engage in this Oran high-level meeting just to, let's say in brackets, to educate our members, our newly elected members to the Security Council, for them to be aware of all our positions with regard to all African files at the UN Security Council.
It has brought a change in the way Africa acts at the Security Council in terms of coordination of the positions, including common positions on questions of the continent. As we all know, the Security Council has some around 65 to 70% of its agenda is on African issues, and not having Africa able to echo the positions of the continent, especially from the Peace and Security Council, was a very big vacuum. And we have filled this vacuum by creating the A3.
Today, the A3 continues to play a pivotal role in amplifying the united African voice in the Security Council.
It is also a platform, obviously, for sharing experience between outgoing members of the African 3 members of the UN Security Council and incoming members of the UN Security Council, so that the incoming members build on the experiences of the outgoing members in terms of enhancing their capacity, but also their engagement in the UN Security Council. It has increasingly become important, particularly now when division and polarization within the UN Security Council is at its highest.
Well, it's a very important platform where we can speak our mind and avoid being very diplomatic, as what the French will call langue de bois. I think if we want to find a solution to our problems, we have to be bold enough to address them without any diplomacy. And I think that's the way we can resolve the issues. But if we are trying to be tactful and try to massage the issues, sugarcoat our language, I don't think we'll find any solution. It's important that we talk as brothers and sisters, and we have the courage to speak the truth to each other.
And as we speak, 3 of the countries that constitute the Central Sahelian space, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, are suspended from the African Union because of military coup d'etats. Yes, you continue from there, of course, into perhaps one of the most pronounced crises as we speak, Sudan. The conflict that broke out in that country on the 15th of April appears to have deepened. It has really intensified, and we run the risk of seeing one of our member states actually move into that category that we don't want to talk about, but essentially state failure. That general Great Lakes area remains, I think, a major source of concern for us. And what you have there is really the intersection of conflicts that have been there for a while, but also mineral resources that everyone is looking for.
At the 10th high-level seminar, members of the Peace and Security Council and the A3 at ministerial level explored ways of strengthening the African voice on continental and international affairs. High representatives from the AU, UN and bilateral partners such as Norway, Switzerland and Denmark engaged extensively in these discussions.
The A3 voted in favor of the draft resolution because we believe that it signifies an effort on the part of the pen holder to bridge widely divergent views.
The permanent members of the Security Council are accustomed to the fact that they write the resolution on any regional or international conflict, including African conflict. So when it comes to Africa, it is always 1 or 2 members, permanent members, that take the pen and write the resolution on the Africa. So we are saying that too. At least to start with, we can hold the pen with you, and then, I mean, when it comes to African problems, we want our positions be reflected through our own writing, through our own thinking. And I believe that we are making some headway.
The AU Peace and Security Secretariat works closely with the United Nations Institute for Training and Research, UNITAR, in facilitating the organization of the Oran Process. UNITAR has been a partner to the Oran Process from the first seminar that took place in Algiers, Algeria in December 2013.
I was part of the team that prepared the concept notes that gave birth to the today called the A3 seminar. It was a gap, a need in the strengthening the role of and the cohesion among the African countries on the UN Security Council, and the better coordination for those countries on the UN Security Council and the African Union Security Council. UNITA plays a very minor role because we are in the support of enabling the event to take place.
The 10th anniversary edition of the high-level seminar was also an opportunity to look back at past achievements and map the peace and security future of the continent.
Before a decision is made on African matters, I think it is now almost established that they want to hear from the A3, from the 3 African member states in the Council. And myself, I have witnessed the shift in the way the 3 member states have been coordinating their work in the Council. No longer you will see each and every African member state speaking, on its own national position, especially on issues of, relevance to all member states in the Council. They take one. There is one coordinator. And the UN is absolutely supportive of this step forward, which we believe will bring about a more consultative process, and it will also reflect a world that is changing, acknowledging that a major continent, the African continent, must have a say in matters that affect it directly.
Africa is the only continent that has entrusted the 3 African countries in the Security Council with the task of representing Africa in the Security Council. No continent has done such a thing. All the other continents are represented by countries that express national positions. As far as Africa is concerned, the 3 countries do their best to express African position on various security issues within the Security Council.
It has also proved useful to Addis Ababa, to the AU and the Peace and Security Council as the face and the voice and the ears of Africa in the UN system. So we have these achievements. More needs to be done, definitely, but in doing so, we must realize that we have come a long way in being able to mobilize the international community for special attention to African issues.
I think with 10 years, we can proudly say that we have achieved a milestone for the African continent regarding the way we act, the way we defend ourselves in the international arena when it comes to questions of peace and security. By being there as members of the African continent, the Security Council, the main objective is not just to be there. The main objective is to end conflicts on the continent. By ending conflict, then we can have more time to devote our efforts and means to issues of development which have been kind of marginalized.
It has therefore achieved quite a lot in terms of really enhancing that understanding of the strategic significance of the role of the A3. It has also provided a platform for exchanging those lessons learned. It has become an arena actually for refining the different mechanisms based on the particular context of a particular type. They therefore form a formidable bloc that you can consider to actually serve in some ways as both as principally a veto, exercising some kind of veto, not necessarily, a de jure veto, but if the 3 votes are not going to be there, it can create a very, really serious challenge for the functioning of the UN Security Council.
Overall, the high-level seminar has proved to be a strategic platform which can be used to find solutions to African and global problems, while also pushing for the reform of the UN Security Council.
First of all, we are all members of the United Nations. When we talk about the United Nations, sometimes we give the impression that it is something which is very far from us. We are full members of the United Nations. It means this body, which was created in 1945, need to reflect also our presence in our participation in the same body. I was just talking about the Security Council. I was talking about the issues of pen holder. I was talking about the issues of numbers. I was talking about the issues of our presence there by non-permanent presence. We think we started these reforms as a United Nations. The African continent has been very active, not even talking about the former Secretary General Kofi Annan, but including issues of the modern times. When you take the SDGs, you had Africans leading the processes with a Kenyan ambassador as a facilitator. We had Mina Mohammed at the time advising Ban Ki-moon as Secretary General. You had Minister Kutesa leading the process at the General Assembly. So our contribution is there. But yet, I think we need to feel at home. We are not holding the pen. But it's a matter especially to impact fully on the decision. But I think this is happening because today rarely people deal with African issues without consulting the A3.
Tremendous successes have been made in the past decade. Now is the time to leverage the Oran process and consolidate the African Union's march towards the attainment of Agenda 2063, while also positioning Africa as a key international player in a reformed UN system.